Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 3 o'clock, and we will begin the Richland County Detention Center Ad Hoc Committee meeting. At this time, Madam Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Pugh? Leto?
Here.
Weaver?
Here.
Aline?
Here.
English.
Present.
We have a quorum.
At this time, please allow the record to reflect. Vice Chair Pugh called me and shared that he would not be here at this meeting, but he will be attending council a little later on today. At this time, can I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Leto?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Aline?
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Administrator Brown, are there any changes or additions?
No recommended changes.
Attorney Wright, any changes?
No, ma'am, no recommended changes.
With that being said, may I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, can you take the vote?
Leto? Yes. Weaver?
Yes.
Aline?
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving to item number 4, items for discussion or action. Item 4A, Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center updates, and at this time, I will look to Administrator Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. In your packet, beginning, I believe, on page 9, I provided you some additional information that follows the continuation of data that we're sharing with you regarding Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. What you see right now is basically the population report associated with the detention center. And I won't spend a lot of time on this area as we had just had an update here not too long ago, but I just want to point some things out to you just based off some of the questions in general information you had previously talked about. So when you look at this first sheet where it outlines those individuals who are awaiting trial at Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center, and in particular, it shows you in this particular area the charges that are awaiting trial that are under solicitor's control. Sometimes one of the things we hear questions about are the individuals that are in our facility and whether or not they're nonviolent charges or drug charges or what type of individuals are being housed there and how does it affect the operations and the staff and just what we are able to do for the detainees that are there. And so one of the things I wanted to point out to you, when you take a look at that first row where it talks about violent charges, of the individuals that are there, you see when you to the far right when it says total, that very first line, there are 474 out of the 903 individuals that are currently awaiting trial in our institution. They are there because they were charged with some sort of violent charge. And what that represents is over 52% of the population of individuals that are awaiting trial in the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. You may say, well, Mr. Brown, that's a data point. Why does that matter? And why would you point that out? One of the reasons why I'm bringing that to your attention is when you think about the construction of our facility, and you think originally when Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center was built, and I'm imagining I was not here at that time, but a lot of times you build different classification areas within your jail. So for example, you may build an environment where there are people that don't have violent charges, and maybe things like they were, arrested for something that was nonviolent and maybe what we might consider minor, but they were arrested. So they have to be in an environment. And so they would not necessarily be in the same type of housing that someone that maybe had a violent charge would. So in our environment, we have about 5 housing units that what you would probably consider it, in old terminology, low risk, meaning that individuals that are there, you don't anticipate that they will be doing anything violent because they weren't arrested for anything violent. And so that's how part of the facility was built, where that matters to us now because, as you can see, the majority of people in our custody are actually they're not there because of non-violent charges. So when we have open spaces that are not necessarily the best for individuals who might not need to be together with each other for any number of reasons, you've heard various reports that gang activity, not trying to, pump it up, but that gang activity is something that maybe was a little bit higher than it was maybe at one point in Richland County's history. And so when you think about where people are grouped together, that's why this kind of information matters, because individuals with violent charges can only be placed with individuals classified with violent charges. But if you have a considerable number of your space where it's open, and it doesn't allow for the segregation of those individuals from each other, then you may have a situation where it's not ideal. And so that's kind of one of the things that just pointing out to you. And again, the idea is that when people are in the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center pre-trial, the anticipation is that they're not there for over a year and that they're not learning the ins and outs of the facility and learning how to do things that maybe are not in their best interest or the interest of others that are working there or that are housed there as well. So just wanted to share that with you. So when you think about, how we are currently populated, you see that unfortunately we have a significant number of people who are there on violent charges. So I'm going to move on to the next sheet, Madam Chair, but I want to stop and take any questions just in case there are questions before I move on. All right.
That's fine.
Moving on to, I'm going to skip this particular page. There's not a lot there, just showing you whether or not there are individuals who are back in our custody because they violated probation. And then when they violated probation, did they have another charge when they did that? The next sheet, Madam Clerk, if you could move up, please. To the next sheet where it shows yes. When you look at the one, I believe it would be 13, maybe? The one right after that one. Yes, ma'am. So when you take a look at this sheet, again, it talks about all categories of individuals that are currently housed in our facility. We talked briefly about this the last time, but I just kind of wanted to update you again on those numbers. When you take a look at that column where it says 181, and it goes across at the top, up to 366. That's talking about the number of days individuals have been in our custody based off of the 30-day and 60-day intervals. So what you're seeing there is there have, of the individuals that are all in our custody, 372 of 903 individuals have been there greater than 6 months awaiting trial. So that means that they're there awaiting to go through their process. So that number represents 41% of the individuals that are housed at Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. And then when you go back and talk about their year conversation, where you look at that last column, which says 366 plus, that means that 230 individuals have been in our custody for over a year awaiting trial. What does that mean and why is that important? Because again, our facility is designed to be short term. It is not designed to have people, again, learning what our security patterns are, learning the ins and out of our facility because they've been there so long. And the example that I gave was, just imagine you have a new detention officer coming in, they've been on the job for 2 weeks, and you have somebody that they're detaining and they're watching, and they've been there for over a year. So who knows the job better, the new detention officer or the detainee that's been there? And that makes a difference for how people try to manipulate the system, try to manipulate other detainees that may come in who've only been there a short time. All of these things can play an impact on how the system works within the detention center. So we're conscious of that. We're trying to make sure that we do what we can to bring this to the attention of the folks who have the ability to affect this. And as a part of this committee, what we've talked about over the last several months is, well, what decisions does Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center have through the county administrator, through the county council? What of this do we determine? You don't determine how long anyone stays there. You don't determine who goes there. You don't determine what they are charged with. You don't determine whether or not their charges are dismissed or pursued. All you are able to do is provide a space where individuals that are sent to our care can be. And you have been doing that, and you provided funding to actually elevate what that has looked like historically, including the approval of a new tower to address the capacity issues that we have based off of the folks that are being arrested and sent to Alvin S. Glenn. So the detention center, the county administrator, the county council, none of us can turn away detainees at the facility. If a law enforcement agency brings them to us, we must take them. We don't have jurisdiction to say we don't have capacity, we don't have the ability to house them. We must take them. Conversely, if we have individuals in our facility who have received a charge or an order to go to, for example, the Department of Mental Health, if the Department of Mental Health says we don't have capacity, they don't take the detainee. So they're still in our custody, even though they're supposed to go to the Department of Mental Health. So just an example of the difference between what we can do and what other agencies can do. And so we're trying to work on that to get people to understand the need and hopefully have those agencies work with their, governing bodies to provide more space, because we know that's an issue. But what it means for Richland County is, and we've heard this, we still have to provide the care that's necessary, even if the resources that we have are different from those at a more appropriate facility. And that's unfortunately just the way that it is that we're having to work through. So we're just trying to raise awareness and try to make sure we build partnerships to better affect what we have to experience with detainees. So I'll stop there, Madam Chair, take any questions that you all may have regarding these particular items.
Recognize, Councilman,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Brown, we're not the only county, of course, that runs a jail. I mean, my question is, where do we stand, Alvin S. Glenn, in terms of inmates that have been there for, say, a year or approaching a year? I mean, are we doing better than other county jails? Is there anybody keep statistics on that, or could we possibly get some statistics, without too much trouble?
It's a great question. So there are folks who are trying to do a better job of getting statistics from other areas. So we would have to request that information. We don't have a database that we can go in and look
Right.
at other facilities.
Okay.
What I can tell you is, just off numbers alone, you have 3 entities that are larger entities, and so they have larger populations. That's your Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center, that's gonna be your Greenville Detention Center, and then your Charleston Detention Center. So when we look across these areas, what we know is that Richland County, through this county council, is doing a significant job in investing in the detention center. That I can tell you. I can tell you that I would be surprised, I don't think it's the case, that if there's anybody that has invested in this period of time to do the renovations that we're doing and the investment that this council has done in their detention center in the face of the challenges that they have. One of the things that we hear, and we hear it, and I try not to even just use Alvin as Glenn, when we talked about mental health in jails. A couple of years ago, back when Chief Justice Beatty was still on his post, he called for a kind of training or summit where all of the solicitors in the district they represent, the mental health judges, the probate judges, detention centers, and mental health providers came and we talked about these issues. And what I heard was that a lot of folks are not even providing the level of care that we are providing. There are jails that don't provide the level of 24/7 medical services that we provide. So we know that's part of the issue. So it's kind of hard to say whether or not we are better than, because some of them just don't have the resources and they don't do it at all.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there someone on your staff that could send letters to Greenville and Charleston, the detention facility, and ask for these same kind of statistics you're quoting here and just see if they respond back? I'd like to know if the solicitor in Richland is doing better than they are and moving people out the door quick. Are we doing worse? I don't know. I'd be curious what Greenville and Charleston had to say.
Sure, I can certainly ask for the jail numbers, but in terms of cases, that would be something that the solicitor, who would be the independent elected official, would have to do. But I can certainly reach out to the jails and ask, can you provide us your population data and show them what ours looks like and see if they have reports similar to ours that we could have. And absolutely, I would do that.
I would just find that interesting to compare, with the other facilities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I didn't have any questions regarding that, but I really wanted to just give positive feedback regarding the updates that are there and that are going forth. It is just phenomenal to see of the 7 of the 9 units that we're working on, how it just looked really good with 85 to 100% of completion. And so I can tell the staff is continuing to work diligently with that just to make sure we come up to date. So thank you for that as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to actually walk through those slides here in just a moment. I believe that the county attorney may have one to be recognized, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Attorney Wright?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Brown, the administrator, did mention about people being there over a year. And I just want to emphasize that we have people who've been there for well over a year, like 3-4 years, even I think in the last report we had a couple who'd been there since I think 2019 pre-trial. So this is a situation where, yes, you have people, of course they're going to know systems better if they've been there for 5 years or more versus someone who's, say, a detention center officer who's just started a couple of weeks. So, and as he stated, these are things, unfortunately, that are outside of our control because we don't control how long people stay there or when someone goes to trial or if somebody can be got into a Department of Mental Health bed, even if they're supposed to be or even court-ordered to be. So these are things that, the facility has to deal with that they have no control of.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Brown, you can continue.
Yes, ma'am. So let's talk about some things that we do have control over that I wanted to share with you that, again, reflect the investments that you all have made in the facility. So, Madam Clerk, if you would roll up to that next page. So what I've done
Brown.
is...
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Refrain from saying you and say we, because we've been in this together, please. You've been with us the whole time.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to acknowledge specifically that one of the reasons why we have been able to make the advancements is because this body has made the necessary decisions. And you have some bodies, for whatever reasons, they're unable to do that. So I always want to make sure I give credit because the policy-making body has to take the action, and you've chosen to do that, okay? But yes, ma'am, we are working together. So let's talk about some of the things that have moved forward. So you're looking at that first screen. I'll just kind of tell you what the changes are on there. So that visitation center is now complete. So we've gone from the last report where we were almost there to now that facility is ready. So we anticipate having a ceremony, just a opening for this coming up probably after your coming back from August. But I want you to know that that is actually complete. And why does that matter? That matters because we don't have to have attorneys entering into the housing units to visit their clients. And that's just something to think about. That is a situation where you have individuals who their safety is improved, both the attorneys and the detainees and the officers. It's just a better overall environment than having folks enter into the housing unit just to go and visit their clients, or to have a better environment to visit your clients, even if you're doing the old barrier that we have where you go in and you see your client on the other side of the petition, but you're in a space where maybe the sound and acoustics are not such where they're conducive to make sure that what you were saying with your attorney is not heard by anybody else. So that is going to be a great addition. The next item on here where we see changes are in phase 5, the alarm system. So that's actually up from a completion percentage of 95%, and the estimated completion date on that is the end of this month, which is rapidly approaching. So we anticipate on that alarm system replacement being completed by the end of July. On the next page, we have the Juliet housing unit, which is now 100% complete. This is another unit now that has been fully renovated. And I know I say this each time, but we have sometimes people who are listening for the first time, so they don't know this, but that renovation is complete from top to bottom, from the floor to the ceiling, from the interior to the doors themselves. And that matters because there have been questions in the past about whether or not Richland County had facilities that were malfunctioning. And part of our conversation was a malfunction is something that happens when something breaks down over time. It is not something that is tampered or destroyed on purpose. So we have, unfortunately, from time to time, individuals who don't care about the investments that are made in the facility, but no one can say that Richland County did not do what it needed to do to provide an adequate facility for individuals to be housed in, because you're doing just that. Lima housing unit, that change is up from 80% complete, so we're about 90% complete on that with an estimation completion date of the second week in August. And then the Kilo housing unit is up to 85% complete, which has changed from 75% at the last time that we had this conversation regarding facility updates. The next page, Madam Clerk, the uniform housing unit is up to 85% complete. That is also up from 75%. And then the last one is the Mike housing unit. That is up to 45% from 30%. So we'll continue to make steady progress on these housing units, which would again open up spaces that will allow us to put people in an environment that is more confined. And I know it may sound bad potentially to some folks, but ideally remember that the majority of our facility is classified with people that have violent charges. And the way classification works is you can only put people, or should only put people, that have similar related charges. And if I have a violent charge and I'm a member of a gang, ideally you don't put gang members in with members of a different gang. And you may say, well, that's, they should have gone to jail. Well, we have to do that. We cannot just say, we just put you in there and figure it out. We have to make sure to the best of our ability that when we identify potential harmful factors, that we account for that. And so you have to think that you know, can you accommodate every single situation in our institution? And did they think about that back in 1990? And the reality is, no. There are things that you just don't think about because you don't think people would do some of the things that they do until you realize that it happens. And so now what we've done is our environment is more contemplating what is it like when we don't have low risk or medium risk detainees, that when we have detainees that show more potential for harm of themselves or others. So that's, part of why, all this is necessary, in addition to the fact that, unfortunately, sometimes with a growing population of people, you might have growing issues, and those growing issues require more people to be detained. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, that concludes my report on these items. We'll certainly take any questions about any of the facility updates that you've been provided.
Recognize.
I hate to go back, but can you tell us what is the occupancy limit for
Yes, ma'am. So at last count, before we modified Unit Tango to the visitation area, it was 1130. So right now with the housing units that we have, it's going to be slightly under 900, which is part of the reason why we have to have, that we're talking about the new tower, because one of the things I ask you all to remember is, if you think about it this way, it's not a 1-for-1. So even if I have, let's just say I had 900 beds in our facility, it doesn't mean that anyone can go in any one of those beds, because I have classification. And classification says that people can only be with similar related charges. So if I have an overabundance of open space, then it says I'm very limited on who I can put in there. Or I tie up a large area of space with just a few people. So that's very important when it comes to all of these discussions. So when you look at it, it's not 1-for-1. So one of the things that we are doing is we're looking to add on the ability to say anybody can go in any unit, and that's what we're building to. That way, whether the person needs, minimal supervision or maximum supervision, is taken care of, because you can't put a person that needs maximum supervision in a minimum supervision space, but you can person that needs minimum supervision in a maximum space, and you're fine. So, but we're trying to do all of that now, as compared to being able to really do it on the front end. And that's, no fault of anyone. The community may have just been experiencing differences at that time, and it may not have been a need seen for, a maximum kind of structure, majority-wise. So we have a mix, and unfortunately, we have a max or a higher number of individuals that need, to be separated than we do people that can be together.
I wanted to ask the question. So in terms, it looks like violent charges is by far the largest category. Looks like 188 people have been there over a year, but that doesn't include, it's 474 that are actually there now, or as of the date and time of this report. Is there any threat of overcrowding? Do we have sufficient space for violent crimes or violent criminals?
So the answer to your question is yes on both parts. Yes, do we have space? And then yes, there's a potential for overcrowding, because the more people that come to us, we have to take them, and we don't get to say we're out of space. That's the thing about part of the challenge, and all detention centers have this, if they have this issue, where if law enforcement makes an arrest and say these people need to be detained, and they go to the detention center, they have to take them. They're unable to say, we only have 3 beds, and now you're bringing in 5 people. They have to go to that facility. If during the time those folks are in that facility, and let's just say someone comes in to make a determination as to what is the capacity, and whether or not there is, overcrowding, they would say to you, you have too many people in this space. But that statement doesn't mean that that's what you chose to do. That means that that's what you have to do. But it's not treated that way. It's treated as, well, sorry, you just have to accept that as the agency and do what you can do about it. And so that's why I'm saying to you all as a body, I know for a fact Richland County Council, through what it has done, is addressing this in a way that the majority of other jails in South Carolina are not addressing, because they don't have it to do for whatever number of reasons, or they've decided not to, or they're just going to, try to hopefully get funding some other kind of way. So that's why I keep saying kudos to, I know you're saying we, but kudos to you all, because it is a decisive decision that you've made, and it does matter. So I wanted to make sure I continue to acknowledge that.
Said before is that the citizens of Richland County matter. All of us matter. So, and that's why we make those choices and decisions. And so, any
Yes,
further
ma'am.
thing?
So I'm sorry, just a question.
Colleagues had any questions?
So items B and C, items B, we are still going through the process of considering applicants for the facility, and I hope to bring back some information, at the next time that we meet. But that process is ongoing, and so I want to share that with you. We do have interested parties. Item C, I wanted to share with you, as we continue to talk about the facility as a whole, there are a couple steps that we've made regarding the facility. One, we've talked about the facility internally, but also external to the facility, we've also made operational changes. We've contracted external services to help us with the grounds. That's been ongoing. We've done that. We've also moved forward with, and you may recall, a plan to have a third-party provider to maintain the maintenance of the facility as well. So we've continued to, again, not only talk about processes, but we talked about operations, as well as other opportunities with our policies that we have to do an overall better opportunity of improvement with Alphonse Glenn Detention Center, and all those things are continuing to go forward. So that really concludes my report. And again, Madam Chair, I appreciate you. I know there's been questions about whether or not, Richland County is focused on Alphonse Glenn, and these reports, even though sometimes they seem repetitive, there's some people hearing it for the first time and not aware that the county has been taking these actions.
Administrator Brown, one of the things that I always want to bring to public attention is that we do care, and we are making progress. We've taken everything into consideration that Department of Justice has said, and everyone, and we're making steps in the right direction. We want people to understand that not only that we care, but that we are making positive changes. And as we continue to put this forward, we want people to see that sometimes what they don't hear is the truth. I mean, we have been attacked on so many levels, and we haven't been able to respond positively other than to say, this is what we're doing. And we're not able to refute anything, but at the same time, just being able to put out here, this is what we're doing, this is the progress that we're making. And I think it looks good. I think it speaks volumes to the work that's being done and the care of not only this council, but the county as a whole. So thank you for that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
and since you did bring up the Department of Justice, and I just want to reiterate the fact that they came to investigate two things: one, detainee on detainee violence; two, basically the facility. They've had zero findings against the facility. I don't think when it's brought up, people don't mention that, but literally they had no findings about the facility. And with detainee on detainee violence, their findings were not based on the current situation, not even the current situation, even as they stood the day they made the report. So it was based on data from years previously. So just to, so everyone understands, there were no findings against the facility, and the findings they did have were about years previously, not the current status, because the numbers for the current status had been decreased greatly. So just to reiterate that to people who may not hear that, but even with the DOJ findings, we took those things into consideration, but the findings were actually based off of old information, not current information.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Colleagues?
Yes, ma'am. I'm finished, Madam Chair. I'll just say that thank you to the detention staff who may see this later on, that we appreciate what you're doing. And let's try to keep forward with the progress that we've made.
With that, we'll move to item 5.
Move to adjourn.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Little,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Lean. Yes. English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.